Welcome. This workshop is about the built-in player inventory system in Horizon Worlds. There has been this player inventory built in a long time, but and it's really designed to work with the IWP system, but there were previous to April, there were no ways to put things into the inventory unless people bought them. And so that really limited your ability to use it as like a proper inventory system where you might like pre-provision players with some stuff. And then if they bought things, they could add them to the inventory, and then, so anyway, and then they added some new APIs around just like understanding what's in players' inventory because it was a little hard to tell what they add in their inventory before. So anyway, so that was sort of the impetus of having this talk to discuss like exactly how you use the built-in player inventory for durable items that have assets or consumable items, how to add player inventory items without purchases.
Anyway, so the obligatory skills matrix, we're mostly talking about mechanics and progressions and core loop things. IWP and inventory is, a sort of definitely a progression in the mechanic item. And then there's definitely, we're talking about scripting, the programming in TypeScript and, the using like the specific technical features of Horizon, namely IWP and inventory. And so this is the other obligatory workshop info slide. It's recorded. Raise your hand. You can just like comment if you have something to add. Keep yourself muted unless you have a question. Post in the channel, in the meeting chat, if you want to discuss something and raise the questions there. There will be a little Q&A at the end. Activate the chat to help others along. And then at the very end, there'll be a survey I would like you to fill out. Yes, and then I'm in the various places on the forums and discords and such. So anyway, so we're going to discuss the goal of this workshop. I kind of went over that a little bit already, using the built-in inventory system with IWPs. There are some caveats here. Like I saw the new APIs in April, and I'm like, oh, great, this is going to be cool. But when I went and built the world for this workshop, I found that there are a number of things that are very rough still around the edges with the inventory system, especially in TypeScript. The code block interfaces to the inventory system work better or work correctly versus some of the TypeScript ones don't work correctly unless you do a lot of workarounds and mitigations and stuff like that, which I have done in this workshop. But you should just be aware that like it doesn't quite work out of the box with TypeScript the way you'd like. Additionally, testing the inventory and IWP in the desktop editor is at this point it's practically impossible. You have to use VR or mobile, and really you would prefer to use VR for testing IWP because you can do test purchases from VR, which you cannot do right now from mobile. You cannot do any IWP purchases at all from web or the desktop editor. However, you can do IWP purchases from Quest Link to VR from the desktop editor. So which is what I was doing in this to sort of demo how that works. If you do IWP purchases on mobile, even though you're the creator, it's still going to charge you money. There's no way to do test purchases right now in mobile. It'll just it'll do a real purchase and it will spend real money. So there's some caveats there about how this whole thing works with inventory and IWP. Additionally, you cannot access the inventory from the desktop editor. You can access it through Quest Link from VR to the desktop editor. You can access it on mobile, and you can access it on the web. So I'll be demoing from using the web to show you how you use the inventory, and maybe in VR via Quest Link if we get to that. Anyway, so I'm going to do a quick demo of this world that I made just to give you orient people to what this thing's about. Then we're going to review creation of durable and consumable IWPs. We're going to talk about how to provision the player inventory using the new APIs, and then how to control durable inventory item spawning, and how to control consumable inventory item consumption. So that's going to be our chat. All right, so let's jump over to. So this is the world that I made. It's just a little dungeon world. It's I'm going to have to demo it in. So we're in this world. We have a little HUD up here that tells us what our hit points are. You saw that maybe briefly that we didn't have anything on our back, but this sword got spawned in onto our back right when we joined the world. It's holstered over here, so we can get it if we want. We can put it in our hand, or if we let go, it just goes onto our back. So in the web, to access the inventory on the web, you can hit the tab button, and then it brings up something that looks quite a bit like your VR interface. And then this little backpack is the inventory. And then you can go and see these in-world items. So unfortunately, it's difficult to actually show this, but like before I joined this world, I had nothing in my inventory. But when I joined the world, I auto added this wood sword to the player's inventory, and I auto added, this is a durable item, and I auto added one consumable health potion to the player. So they had those two things. So that's part of the new API where you can put stuff into the inventory without them doing any IWP purchases. Then over here, I have some IWP stations, where, oh, what happened here? There we go. Where you're able to like buy this. Unfortunately, can't buy anything from the web. You can only buy on mobile and VR, so I will show that in just a moment. But this lets you buy some better swords. This wood sword is kind of crappy. This is a health potion, and this is like increases your max health. Your max health currently is 10. You can increase it to higher if you want. And then if we go in here, and here, this is just, I've reused like the zombie and the skeleton from that NPC thing. And so, these guys come and attack you, and you can whack at them. This guy has 10 hit points, so but if he hits me, you can see my health points are going down. So like you're gonna get away from him, and this guy over here, he has he hits you and it does even more damage. So you definitely don't want, if you hit him enough time, oh, I ran out of health and I died. So anyway, so that's sort of basically the game. Oh, I guess I got some delayed damage there. But if I were to go to my inventory, and I could go and consume my one health item, and now it's just gotten used, and now my health went back up. It did +5 to my health, so my health is now 10. Anyway, so that's sort of the gist of the game, and I guess we didn't really show the buying of the increased max hit points, but I think, imagine if I had bought and that max hit point things, my max hit points would have been to 15, and then I would have been able to play longer before dying. I guess one other thing to just show is that, so now I'm at max health. I just rejoined the game. So I have to do this. Sorry, I have to do this from, I can't talk to the inventory from the desktop editor. I have to do it from here. The one other thing I wanted to show about the consumable item is that if you're at maximum health, I want to prevent them from consuming that item. This is the other area of control that you want to have around. There is no way to auto open the inventory page now. So if I were to go to my inventory item and I tried to consume this, it's like, oh, you're already at max HP. And so it doesn't get consumed. It just stays there. It refuses to consume it. So this is me using some control to prevent them from consuming things when they shouldn't. I guess the one other thing to discuss there would be I guess I have to go and jump into the headset really quickly to actually purchase some of these other items. So I'm going to use QuestLink for that. Yeah, it's a little bit of a squirrely to test some of this stuff on. So now I'm in my headset, and if you are in your headset, uh, unfortunately, when you're on QuestLink, HUDs don't attach to your headset. Um, in VR, they just stay at the origin, which is really annoying. So this makes it hard to test using QuestLink. If you go into VR, actual real VR, then this would be on a HUD. But when you're in QuestLink, the HUD that they don't attach. So can go, but since I'm in VR, even though I'm on QuestLink, I can test purchase these things. So I'm gonna test purchase some stuff. Test purchase like an extra health. And as you recall, my max health is 10 right now, but if I test purchase this increased max HP, it's going to, there, went to 15. My max HP went to 15. And then if I look in my inventory here in VR, I now have these other swords. So I currently have this one wooden sword. And if I switch and say I want to use the magic sword, it's going to theoretically, yeah. Oh, might have to test. This might not work in Westlink. We might only be able to do that in the web. But I now have these other swords now. They're in my, I have some extra health. So anyway, let us exit out of Westlink. So can inventory follow like player to other Horizon World games? No, inventory is only per world. It's just for your world. Does seem to be like maybe with those pets that they've been talking about, maybe they'll be like someday will be allowed to take inventory to other worlds, but right now, not. All right, so like the one last thing I wanted to demo here about what's going on in this world, so that you understand what's going on when you see the code a little bit, is now I have those other swords in my inventory. And so I spawn in, I still have my PPV is keeping track of the fact that I updated my max there. I have the wooden sword automatically. And then if I switch and say I want the magic sword, see it spawned out my wooden sword and it spawned in the magic sword. And if I go and say I want, the gold sword, it spawned out the magic sword and it spawned in the gold sword. So this is where I am doing some stuff with code to ensure that only one of those swords is in the world at a time, because using the inventory, it just spawns the thing spontaneously into your world. And you just get an event that says, oh, they spawned this thing, by the way. And if you want to make sure there's only one of them, you need to go and despawn the other one, because otherwise there'll be two. So that is the other aspect that's going to going on here, is that we are using the events from that tell us that they spawn something from the inventory to like prevent there from being duplicates of things being spawned. If a player purchases a 10 pack of consumables, should we expect to receive the purchase complete event 10 times with this item SKU or just once? I'm not sure. I think that the item SKU for that is the pack. And so I think you would get the purchase complete for the pack, but I think you would get the consume on the individual items. I'm not exactly sure about that. That is a good question, and maybe check that later and I can get back to you. Anyway, now I think everybody's got the gist of what's going on with this game. And we're going to dive into the code, and we're going to talk about how you make IWP items and how you make IWP items and how you can provision them to the player without having to have them buy them, and then how you do like the durable and consumable item spawning control from the inventory so that you make sure that they're using things the right way. So down here, you can see these are just my seller gizmos. These guys are just all non-collidable, unscripted things. That like the sword is just, it's a sword, but there's no script on here or anything like that. And for the most part, these gizmos don't have any scripts on them either. This one has a script on it, and we'll get to that in a moment about why we need a script on this particular one, but not on the other ones. Anyway, so there's commerce items. I've created these. I created commerce items for all of my IWP sellables. So these up here, these are actually, you'd probably delete these from your world eventually once you've got it all set up, but these are the actual assets that are the durable assets that are going to go into the inventory. So these things do have scripts on them. These have a script that does the sword behavior. And like this sword has a damage of 10 versus like this sword has a damage of just 1. This sword script is more or less just lifted from the NPC tutorial world. But I made some small modifications to it to like be able to do damage to the zombies and the skeletons with different amounts of damage. So you're going to want to make your assets. You're going to put your scripts on them, and then you're going to like turn them into assets. So these are all, eventually I went and I, did, create asset for each one of these things to make them as an asset. And I made them templated. I made them asset templates. So that way they're just a little bit easier to update as I go forward. And they're just, these guys are grouped here. But once you made them, you could either like hide them in the world because no one's ever going to actually use these things. These are going to get spawned in per player as they are spawning them in and out of their inventory. So you can just delete from the world, or you can stick them somewhere off to the side so that people don't need to worry about them, don't need to see them. So when you're creating commerce items, basically it's a pretty simple process. You create an in-world item, you give it its name, like it's going to call this test sword, whatever description you want. You can, bring in an image for this. They need to be JPEGs, but you can go and bring in an image if you want to add an image to your IWP. You can say how many credits they are. And then the important thing here is like, is what kind of asset is it? Is it, let me just put like, credits or something like that. Is it a durable asset or is it a consumable asset? And if it's a durable, asset, you can set an asset. If it's a durable IWP, you can set an asset on it. And this is where you would select, for instance, one of the swords that you had made an asset for before. This will make it so that the player can spawn the durable item out of their inventory. If you don't attach an asset to the durable item, then the item just sort of exists in their inventory, but they can't, as like a record of the fact that they purchased it or that they have it, but they can't actually like click on it in the inventory and like cause something to happen in the world. It's just really like, oh, you bought this thing a while ago and you can only buy one of them because it's durable. It's not a consumable. So like you just have the one thing you bought. And so it's just kind of a record of your purchase. So for this case, if you want to use the inventory to manage items being spawned in and out, you need to make them durable with an asset attached to them so that the Horizon World system knows what asset to spawn when the person clicks on that button in the inventory. The other kind of asset is a consumable asset. And then with consumable assets, you can either make them auto use, which means that as soon as they purchase them, they get consumed. And so they never appear in the inventory. Or if you make them not auto consume, then when they purchase them, they go into the inventory and they just kind of stay there in the inventory with a little number on them of how many you have until the person player clicks on them to consume them, and you approve that they can consume them, and then the number will go down until it gets to 0, in which case they'll all go away. So those are the two different kinds of assets. So I have two. So I have the gold sword, magic sword, and the wood sword. I made the wood sword a an IWP, but it's not purchasable. There's no way to purchase it. I just have it so that I can put it in their inventory at game start, so that they always have at least the wood sword when they start out. But there's no way to buy it. It's just in their inventory. The magic sword has, it costs 50 credits, and the gold sword is like 25 credits. And then I have two consumable IWPs. The health is a non-auto-consuming IWP, which I can't really tell from here, but it is. And then the increased match HP is an auto-consuming IWP, because like as soon as they buy that, it gets consumed, increases their HP. They don't have to do any extra fiddling around with the inventory, because you want your max HP to go up immediately. Versus health, you want to like make those go up. You want to consume those when you need them, and only when you need them, and not any other time. All right, so anyway, that's sort of the layout of how things are set up. I don't know if anybody have any questions about that, but we're going to jump over to look at some code now about how we're going to use all of this configuration. So I'm just going to pause for a moment in case anybody has any questions or comments or confusion about like how the IWPs are set up, durable commerce items versus consumable, auto-consume versus not auto-consume, durables with assets, durables without assets. So King of Miami, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me better there?
Yes, so better now.
So in that inventory menu, I'm assuming there's no categorizing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what order they appear in. They do seem to have some order, but it's not clear that it's the order they were purchased, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, unfortunately, no ordering. So this talk is really about like, rather than building your own inventory system, if you wanted to use the built-in one, this is what you would do. I mean, if you really want maximum flexibility with like categorizing and auto opening the inventory and a bunch of other things like that, you might just want to roll your own inventory system from scratch, which would mainly be based on PPVs for keeping track of everything, I think. And you would not be using like durable IWPs with assets attached to them, because you don't want people to be spawning them out without you knowing. You would want them to go through your own custom UI-based inventory system to like decide to spawn something out, rather than them just spawning it out of the blue by going to the inventory UI and doing it. It might be worthwhile, like given how complicated this can be to use, I have thought that maybe doing another version of this world with like a custom built inventory using custom UI might be a good contrast to this, just because there's a lot of sort of squirrely things in here that we will get to in just a moment. All right, so I'm going to look at some code now. There's not any other questions about this. A lot of this code is just like, these are the NPC agents that are from the tutorial world. They have like very minor modifications to them to like deal with the sword damage and stuff like that, but they're more or less just as they were. This health HUD is just a very simple little, gets max hit points and current hit points, and it puts makes a little bar that goes over, tells you how many hit points you have out of your max. This is just a trigger that hooks into the NPC monster thing to tell them when they should or should not attack you. When you go into the area, they start attacking you. But most of this IWP management stuff is here in like store. Oh yeah, no, store doesn't exist anymore. That was store. The sword. This is the script on the sword. it's more or less based on the NPC sample world. It just has a couple of extra things in it to deal with player damage. Anyway, so the player manager, this is where most of the stuff is happening with respect to managing the inventory and the player interactions. So one of the things that we will need at some point is we're going to need to know the SKUs of these various IWP items. And like we need to know the SKU of the wood sword, the health potion, the max hit points, etc. Just so that we can understand when things are happening with the IWP system and react to them appropriately. And when you want to find those SKUs, like they are here in the commerce menu. It's this little copy SKU that you can see here. This is how you get the SKU. And if we look at the player manager, they're like, they've got this long number after them. They're like the name of the IWP item and then underscore and then some long number. So you just want to copy them out of the commerce menu whenever you need one of these SKUs somewhere in the code. Anyway, so we have a bunch of those. And we have this little player state thing that we're keeping track of their current hit points, their max hit points, whether they're in the arena or not, and what their current sword is. And this current sword entity, this is going to be important for managing the durable asset inventory items, because we need to know what they currently have. So anyway, pre-start, you're just going to wire up some things to find out about players entering and exiting the world. We're going to wire up some events to learn about players getting hit and players dying. And then here is wiring up to learn about when players are trying to consume an item, learning about when they've completed consuming an item, and finding out when they've spawned something from inventory. So this is where things get a little bit squirrely, because the code block event on item consume start is not the right event for this. You really need this player try consume item event, and it doesn't exist in the TypeScript code. So we'll need to make our own. Likewise, the code block event in TypeScript for on player spawn item is incorrect. It doesn't work. We need to make our own player spawn from inventory item. So like we can go quickly look at this. So this player spawn from inventory is a code block event. It has these 3 arguments. It's the correct version of what player spawned item should be. If you try to use on player spawned item, it just doesn't work. It just never get sent. You have to use player spawn from inventory with the entity, asset, and player in this order in order for you to get the event that you want. Likewise, player try consume item doesn't exist in TypeScript, but you need it. It's called player try consume item event, and it returns the player. And it's only sent to the IWP seller Gizmo configured to sell that consumable. So that is why I have a script on the health item. If you recall, this one here, I have a script running on this one. It's running this seller Gizmo for the health, because this is my consumable non-auto consuming health inventory item. And so this is going to get this player try consume item event that I defined, but it only gives you the player. And we actually need to know what SKU is too. So like that's why I have this special script running just on that Gizmo, which knows the SKU of the item it's selling. And then I turn around and I send another event, which is the player plus the SKU, because that's what I'm going to really need to use in my player manager to manage that. So anyway, so the player manager is finding out when people are trying to consume items. It's finding out when people complete consuming items, and it's finding out when players are spawning items from the inventory. Again, these two are not correct in the TypeScript, and you need to make your own events, own code block events for them. And in this case, you'll need to you need to put a special event on the seller gizmo and then send the event from the seller gizmo to wherever else you want to use it. All right, so this is some of the squirreliness. Anyway, going through, like, this is the new player event when a player joins the world. And this is where we're going to use the new APIs that came out in April to pre-provision the inventory of the player with some stuff, because we want to make sure that the player always has a wooden sword, and that they always have one health potion. So we're using persistent variables here just to, like, remember what their max hit points are. They get 10 max hit points if they don't have anything currently set. We keep track of that in this state. These are just some, like, letting the HUD know what the max hit points are. We're always going to make sure that we spawn a wooden sword for the player, and we're just going to reuse our player spawned item event, which we'll get to down below, to, like, equip that sword, like basically attach it to their back. And then we're going to respawn the player, which, like, sends them to the origin and, like, sets their hit points to their max. So here's where we're using the new APIs. So we want to make sure that their inventory always contains the wooden sword, because even though we're spawning the wooden sword for them here and putting it on their back, like, if they have other swords, like if they've already bought, like, the gold sword or the magic sword, and they want to go back to the wooden sword for some reason, we want to make sure that it's in their inventory so they can click on it and they can go back to the wooden sword. Because, if they switch to the gold sword, you'll see later, we're going to just despawn whatever sword they currently had, which, if there was a wooden sword, then there would be no way to get back to it unless we also stuffed it into their inventory so they could get it out of their inventory. So this is where we're using some of the new APIs, this new world inventory API. This world inventory, it has a bunch of things. You can get all the entitlements a player has. You can get everything that you can buy in the world. You can find out if a player has a particular thing. You can give something to a player. You can consume something for a player. And you can get how many of a consumable thing a player has. So we're going to use some of those. In this case, we want to make sure that they have the wooden sword. So we're going to check, do they have the wooden sword SKU entitlement? So we're just going to check, does this player have the wooden sword SKU? And then this is going to give us, this returns us a promise of whether they do or do not have that SKU. And so if they don't have the SKU for the wooden sword, then we're just going to grant them it. We're just going to give it to them for free. Player gets the SKU. So this is how we're, like, stuffing the wooden sword into their inventory if they didn't already have the sword in their inventory. Likewise, we're going to go check and see if they have a health potion. So we can use get the player entitlement quantity, and we can just check for the health potion SKU and see how many they have. So this is again where things get a little squirrely. So it says in the API says that this returns a promise of a number, but it doesn't actually return a promise of a number. It returns a promise of a big int. So, like, this is sort of this comment here, like, it's not really a number. So I have to take this number and I have to cast it to a big int and then see if it's actually 0. If I didn't do this, if I had said instead, like, if health potions equals 0, a big int 0 and a number 0 for some reason don't compare equal. So because maybe if you use double equals, they'd compare, but if you use the triple equals, they're a big int 0 and a number 0 are not the same thing, and so they wouldn't be equal. So you need to make sure you're comparing these. Possibly if I use double equals here, it would do the type coercion for me and it would work. But if you want to use the triple equals, then you have to turn the health potion. You have to let the TypeScript know that this is a big int. If I didn't have that, then it's going to say, oh, you can't compare a number and a big int. So this is why I have to, lie to TypeScript, or actually tell the truth to TypeScript that this thing actually is a big int, even though it was passed as a number. Anyway, so if it's 0, that means they don't have any health potions. And then I'm just going to grant an item to the player. I'm going to give them a health potion. Otherwise, I can, just log, oh, they have 1 health potion or 3 health potions or whatever. And then I don't have to grant them anything. So anyways, this is the important part of the new API. These world inventory have entitlement and get entitlement quantity and grant item to player. These are some of the new things that make the inventory more functional so that you can now stuff things into it for players for free to make sure that they're like pre-provisions without them having to buy everything. Because you kind of want to upsell them on stuff using IWPs, but you kind of want to get them going like, here's some freebies, and then you can buy some more stuff later. Like you can buy the better sword later, you can buy the more health later if you want. So I don't know if anybody has any particular questions about or want opportunity to go over more about what I'm doing here with these new inventory APIs to check and grant entitlement. I just want to hold for a moment there. I'm hopeful that they will fix this bug in the API soon, because this is very esoteric, working around things. Are they just for consumables? Is what just for consumables? Joey J, the new APIs. No, this one is for durable. I'm putting a durable asset-based wooden sword into the player's inventory. So I'm checking that they have the entitlement for the durable wooden sword. And if they don't, I'm granting them the durable wooden sword item for their. Yes, there is a shop gizmo. That is something else. Yes. So that's an aside. Like we can just really quickly jump aside. I made these all using the old IWP thing. I would be seller gizmos, but there is also a new world shop gizmo. I did it go all the way back here. Anyway, there is this new world shop gizmo, which lets you sell things, but it only lets you sell consumables. I don't know why they don't let you sell durables on it. It seems like it would be really easy for them to just like put a banner up like, you already got this. But you can only sell consumable items here. So you see that the only options in this drop downs are the 2 consumables I have. It seems like a shortcoming. Hopefully they'll fix that and they'll allow you to sell durable items here as well. And it will just have a little banner that says you bought it, or something. The other thing to be aware of, though, with the shop gizmo is the shop gizmo does not support test purchases. Even in VR, if you're in VR and you try to buy something from the shop gizmo, it's going to use real money. So you like versus these guys, these IWP seller gizmos, if you interact with them in VR and you're the editor on the world, you can do test purchases. And so like it doesn't cost you anything. If you interact with the shop gizmo, even if you're the world creator, it's going to cost you real money just to test. So I would recommend maybe if you're going to use the shop gizmo for your consumables, like use the IWP seller gizmo first to do all of your testing to make sure that you can do test purchases, that you have all of your consumption flow, consume complete and purchase complete logic all working correctly. Once you've got it all debugged, then you can drop a shop gizmo in and configure it to sell those things and maybe delete your IWP seller gizmos and then do a couple test purchases on it. But they'll cost you real money and there's no way to get the money back. So I am hopeful that they will add durables to the shop gizmo and they will allow test purchases on the shop gizmo because it's a more convenient way of selling consumables. But Right now, for testing, I think it's safer to use the IWP seller gizmos. Yes, Proto XR. Yes, this talk I was hoping would be more of like, isn't it so easy to use the built-in inventory? But the built-in inventory currently has a number of tricky bits to it that require you to work around things that are just sort of bugs in the API or just very difficult to use. I mean, I also hope that someday we're able to do test purchases from the desktop editor, because like having to go into Quest Link into VR just to test purchase is annoying. Even you can't even test purchase in on the web. You can't purchase at all on the web. And if you do a purchase in mobile, there's no test purchase there either. It's a real purchase on mobile. There's even if you're the creator. So the only place you can do test purchases is in VR, either in the VR editor or Quest Link from the desktop editor. Anyway, so I'm going to move on to yes. So how to use their backpack inventory. The backpack and inventory it's there. They are adding things to it, like your outfits are all in the backpack inventory. Your pets, the new pets that they added are in the backpack and inventory. So it's like they are putting stuff in there and they are using it. And so my hope is that like it's maybe it'll get enough focus from them that they will make it a more first class thing that everybody knows about, all the players will know about, because they'll go, oh yeah, I need to get my clothes, or oh, I know that's where I get my in-world durable items are in there, or my, so my hope is that it will become a thing that you can use. But if you really want maximal control over your user's experience, you're going to probably want to make your own custom UI based inventory. All right, I'm going to move on here because we're getting towards the end. This is just the player's damage. This is just like doing some state management and sending some information to the HUD. And if they die, they die. They die, they go to the die animation, blah, blah, blah. And they're reborn. This is just, more HUD stuffs, respawning them, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so here we get to the try to consume. So this is where, the player has clicked on a consumable item in the inventory, and we're going to get this try to consume event through the roundabout path of it going first to the seller gizmo, and then we're going to rebroadcast it with the SKU so that we can go and know what they tried to buy, because currently it's only sent without the information to the seller gizmo. So it gets here, the player and the item they're going to consume. If it's the health potion that they're trying to consume, if their current hit points is, the max hit points, then don't allow them to consume it. We're going to show a pop-up that says you're already at the max hit points. I'm just going to return. So like this try to consume is going to be denied. So this is where you're preventing the player from wasting money by consuming things that won't work for them. Like maybe you're between rounds or something like that. Or in this particular case, it's like you're already at max HP. So this is going to actually have 0 effect. So I'm just going to prevent you from wasting money by not letting you consume this potion right now. You can imagine there's other phases of your game where it's just, you're not allowed to use certain consumables in different phases of your game. And this is where by using the try to consume event, you can prevent them from consuming things. If we decided that it was okay, like their current hit points was less than the max, then you can actually use the world inventory API and you can say, consume this item for this player. So like this player, I have the SKU they're trying to consume, what was passed in, I'm just going to say, consume it. And so this is going to go and initiate the consumption process. So I'm also listening for when they consumes are complete. So either they clicked on the increase max HP auto-consuming IWP, which gives them, more hit points, or they try to consume a health potion from the inventory, and I allowed them to do it by calling consume for them. You're going to get a consume complete, and it's going to return. It's going to give you, the player, the item, and whether the consumption was successful or not. So like up here, for instance, if they try to consume and you don't approve the consume by actually doing consume for them, Um, what will happen here is that eventually the consume will time out and they'll get a consume complete with a failure that says like they weren't allowed to consume the thing. I think I'm not sure how many seconds it is. It's like 10 seconds or something like that, I think. So you do need to, handle the try consume and approve the consume within some period of seconds, or else they're going to get a consumption failure. Anyway, if they're trying to consume the max health potion SKU, which is the item is going to be the SKU passed in here, then I just give them more hit points and I tell the HUD that they have more hit points. If they consume the auto consuming max hit point purchasable item, I increase their max hit points. I'm saving this new value in the PPV, so the next time they come to the world, it remembers that they bought this. And then I'm telling the HUD that their max hit points are now higher. So that's where you can control the consumption of consumables that are in the inventory by letting them consume them or not, depending on your game state. And then when they actually consume them, this is how you find out, oh, they actually did consume either this consumable, the health potion, or this other consumable, the max HP consumable, and do whatever. Any questions about the managing consumption of auto-consumed and non-auto-consumed IWP items? Just to reiterate, the auto-consumed IWP items never show up in the inventory because like they're gone right after you buy them because they auto-consume, so they never show up in the inventory. It's only the non-auto-consumed ones that show up in inventory, and only those end up with the try to consume events. So like finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is the durable item spawning. So this is when somebody goes into their inventory and they click on one of the swords. There's like, I want to use this sword. When they click on it, it's going to just spawn the sword. So and by default, they spawn like right in front of their face, the player's face. So if you, back when I was playing it, when you use this later, if you want to play with this world, you'll see that maybe the sword might flicker in front of them for just a moment, but you don't have any way to prevent them from spawning things from the durable items from their inventory. When they click use, it's going to spawn, assuming you have world capacity to do so. So in this particular game, I don't want them spawning all 3 swords at once. I only want them to have 1 sword at a time. So that's why I'm keeping track of their current sword in my little state for the player. And if they have a current sword, I know I spawned it at some point, or they spawned it, someone spawned it, and I'm just going to delete it. I'm just going to tell the world to delete that asset that just got spawned. So you can use this world delete asset even for things that the player spawned out of the inventory. It also works for that. So this will get rid of their old sword, even if they're holding it, even if it's in their attached to their back, it'll just poof, go away. And then I want to remember like, oh, this is the new thing this is the new item they spawned, the new sword. And then I'm just attaching it to their back so that rather than it hanging out in front of their face, it just kind of goes boink right onto their back. And I think you saw that. And you can then use the holster equip in web and mobile to like get that into their hand. Or if you're on VR, you can just reach over your shoulder and grab it and pull it off of your back. That works for VR. It's fine. So anyway, so this is the part here that manages the durable item spawning from the inventory to make sure that they don't end up with multiple swords at the same time. And we by keeping track of what their current sword is and deleting the one that we don't want them, that they had spawned before, so it's not there anymore, so they only have one at a time. And that is basically it. I will have this world available if people want to get a copy of it. I just need you to, I'll post a message, I'll make a post in the forum that you can, you'll be able to, add your name to, and then I'll add you to the world.